Hey there, it's Tandy with Common Ground Alaska. I wanted to record a quick video today and talk about how to determine the cost of raising meat birds. So it can seem a little bit daunting when you try to think of, you know what it costs you at the store to buy chicken, and when you want to grow your own, you kind of want to get an idea of what that cost is going to be before you get into the project. So I wanted to kind of talk through that a little bit, how we did our figuring for the cost of growing our meat birds. Now, a couple things to note before I get into this. Number one, we opted for Freedom Ranger chicks over Cornish cross. And our reasons for that are personal. Number one, I just think they're a more sustainable bird. I know that it's not a perfect breed. I totally understand that we probably could not sustain ourselves in Freedom Rangers in Alaska. I totally understand that. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we could never sustain ourselves on Cornish cross. But the other reason is too, we just prefer dark meat. So, and you're going to get a whole lot more dark meat in a Freedom Ranger than a Cornish cross. I'm not trying to sell you one way or another. It doesn't matter to me what you prefer, but which you choose, but if you prefer dark meat, then that is something to think about, because the Cornish cross does have much more white meat. One other advantage to Freedom Rangers is they actually like to free range in a field. They'll do really well out there. So what we're doing to set up our field this year is we're actually giving them, we're getting 100 chicks, and some are for us, some are for our son, and some are for some friends. And what we're doing is we're actually just setting up one chicken tractor that's a little bit smaller than a normal chicken tractor, because we're giving them a really big grazing area. We have a nice big field that's plenty big for the 11 weeks that we intend to grow them. So we're going to be moving their space probably every 3 to 4 days. We're going to be moving them, and but they'll have one bigger tractor that will fit them, but it doesn't have the square footage of a normal chicken tractor. So I think it's 4, I can't remember how many square feet a chicken is supposed to have in a chicken tractor when you're trying to grow out meat chicks. Um, for in this case, you actually only need 1 square foot per bird, because all they're doing is sleeping in there. The rest of their time they're going to be outside. Cornish cross just don't do as well in that type of situation. They spend a lot more time inside. They're not as into grazing. So in this case for us, this is how we're building it. Um, so just wanted to give you a little bit of background before I got started. So the actual cost of raising meat birds can feel confusing. Like, how do I know exactly what it's going to cost me? Because it's no fun to get in the middle of a project. This is a decently priced project, especially if you're planning on growing meat for a year. For instance, if you've listened to any of my videos, you know that I think in groups of 52, there's 52 weeks in a year, and I want to make sure that I am rotating everything out, as much food as we can possibly grow every year. And I'm thinking I'm thinking in week-long increments. So for us, we're growing 100 chicks, 52 of them are ours. And that's me thinking forward on eating one of our homegrown chickens per week, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a minute. But it doesn't have to be, the formula isn't all that big once you kind of gather your information. It's actually fairly simple. So first, let's talk about the recommended feeding schedule. So from the day you get them until they're about 3 weeks old, you're going to want to feed your meat chicks a chick starter feed. Now, that chick starter feed is 22% protein in there. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're a little shy of 3 weeks or if you're a little over 3 weeks. When you're feeding your meat chicks, if it looks like you're going to have more than 3 weeks worth, then just continue to feed them. You can start to kind of implement their grower feed in there at the same time, but you don't have to worry about, oh no, it's 3 weeks, I have to quit the starter feed. You don't have to do that. And also, if you're a couple days short and you only have a few chicks, don't go buy another bag. You can easily move them. It's not an exact science. So it's okay if you're off by a few days either way. And it is good to start mixing them a few days before. So when your bag is like, when you only have like say 4 or 5 feedings left, start mixing in some grower feed in there too. So it's just not quite so shocking when you change your feed. So from 3 weeks until about this is what's recommended. From 3 weeks until about a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to harvest, they say to decrease, excuse me, to decrease the protein to 18 to 19% using a grower formula. So it's a small decrease in formula in protein, but that's what you're going to be raising the chicks on mainly. Now remember, this is just talking about the commercial feed that you'd be buying. So then this next part is optional. For the final 2 weeks or so prior to processing, you can move to a finisher, and the finisher has a little bit lower protein again. So you don't have to do this. This is not a requirement. This is just something you can do. We actually opt not to do this just because that's our harvest time of the year. There's enough going on. I don't have time to switch feed. So, but you can do that. Now, here are some feed conversion rates to consider. Now remember, again, these are all estimates. So, these are averages based on how many chickens you have total. So it's going to take roughly 2.5 pounds of feed per pound of live weight if your chicken is processed between 8 and 9 weeks. So if you're growing Cornish cross, you actually would come in a little under that because you may not harvest it. You may not wait till 8 weeks. You may do it at 6 weeks or 7 weeks. It just depends. So, but it's approximately 2.7 to 2.8 pounds of feed per live weight if you process between 10 and 11 weeks. Now, here's something to think about with live weight. If you are growing your own chicken, usually what we talk about is what the chicken weighs after it's been butchered. So I might say, we all have goals. Our goals on these Freedom Rangers are to get them between the 6 and 7 pound range. So we know we're going to need 11, 12, maybe even 13 weeks to grow out these chicks. But that's our goal that's our goal size. So if I want a 7-pound bird, they lose about 30% in butchering. So if I want a 7-pound bird at processed, then I need to grow out a 10-pound bird total. So I know that roughly 2.5 pounds of feed per pound of live weight chicken. So they're 10 pounds live weight. So then I just multiply that by 2.5, and that would be about 25 pounds of food that particular chicken will eat. So let's go through some of the math here real quick. On the farm, we ordered 100 Freedom Ranger chicks. We expect them to grow out for about 11 weeks. Based on this formula, we determined we're going to need about 2,700 pounds of chick food in total. We get our feed from Fred Smith here in Big Lake. He processes his own feed. He has both whole feed and he has pelleted feed. So we get ours from him because he does put some Alaska grown stuff in there. He owns a farm in Delta. I'm not even exactly sure what he does. I know he grows beef because we actually buy ground beef and processed beef from him. But we also get our food from him. I know he grows barley and oats. So he does put some of as much Alaska grown as he can in his feed. So we like to support him. Plus he's in Big Lake. So it's a perfect thing. So I have his price list here. And his chick starter is $37.75, and his chick grower is $36.50. So I know that we're going to need about 10 bags of chick starter. Again, that's super estimated. But when I was looking through it, that looked like that would be about right. So I know if we run out just a little bit early, that's okay. We're going to start mixing the grower in with it. If it looks like it's lasting extra long, that's okay. We'll just, again, start mixing it with the grower a little later. So 10 bags of the chick starter is about $380. We need 45 bags of grower, which is going to be $1,645. So our total food cost is $2,025. That's just food. The cost to purchase the 100 chicks, was about $380. There's other incremental costs like apple cider vinegar, maybe some oyster shell, some just like supplement type things that we would give them as they're growing, but those costs are fairly minimal. But so I added just another $200 just because we may need a few things. So our total investment is $2,606, but that does not include the tractor and the fencing. Let me talk about that really quick. Um, like I said, we're planning to do, we're going to get Premier One fencing. So they'll have the electric fence around them. They'll have a covering over them, and they're going to be able to roam and range, free range quite a bit more than maybe a lot of chickens would be able to. This also makes it so that we only have to move their tractor like every 3 or 4 days instead of having to move it, every day, which can sometimes just be a lot. So we did not include the cost of the tractor into our formula simply because our chicken tractor and setup, our whole setup should last us about 10 years. So you could figure that in. And if you figure it's going to last for 10 years, then figure out the total cost, divide that by 10, and then you can amortize that out every year because it's going to cost you that much money to replace it in 10 years. So you could include that in, set that money aside. And that's not a bad thing. We just chose not to do it because we just kind of consider it part of our farm cost. So, for all 100 chicks, that puts the cost per chick at about $26. That's an expensive chicken. But that's buying premium feed. And that's also the other thing you'll notice when I do this, that I'm always estimating high. I'm always, adding just a little bit more to everything. I'd rather at the end have a couple $100 left than to run out, to have this project cost so much more than we ever anticipated and really find ourselves scrambling at the end. So, but $26 a chick is a lot of money. That is roughly, if every chick gets to 7 pounds, then that's $3.71 a pound. That is a whole lot more than most chicks are at the grocery store. But it's not more than organic chicken at the grocery store, and we know where it's grown. And the other thing about these chickens, I'm not going to get a whole lot into this right now, but the other thing about these chickens is I can make at least 2 meals, usually 3 meals, plus some soups out of it. So one chicken is going to feed us at least 3 times and a couple lunches plus some soup. So we're going to get a lot out of this chicken. That's why we want the thing to be 7 pounds, so we can get quite a bit out of both the meat and the carcass. So, but I want to talk about some things that we're doing that are going to bring the cost down a whole lot and make it more affordable. And actually, I think we're going to come in pretty close to grocery store price, which just makes me super excited when we can do that, when we can grow food that is this high quality, and when we can use local products to supplement and to feed them, then I just feel like it's a win-win. We couldn't have better food in our freezer. And if we can get that down to kind of a mass production price, then I think that, we can't get a better win. That makes me really excited. So here's a couple things to think about. I told you before that Freedom Rangers are really good at foraging. They're better than Cornish Cross. They're a whole lot more mobile. Cornish Cross often get those leg issues, and it's terrible to even try to watch them. And they just don't move around. And the Freedom Rangers will move around a lot more, and they'll forage a lot more. We're putting them on some really nice ground. So they're going to have a lot of grass. They're going to have lots of bugs. They're going to have lots of good stuff to to eat, besides just the feed that we're giving them every day, the commercial feed that we're giving them every day. So that's one way that you can save money right there, is to let them forage. And even your Cornish Cross will forage to a certain degree as well. But it does require a chicken tractor, and it does require moving it a lot because these babies can poop, holy moly. So you need to be putting them on fresh ground, and they'll just eat it down so quickly, especially later in the summer when they're bigger. So you definitely need to have some sort of a mobile tractor to make sure that you're moving them around. So the next thing is, another way that we are saving money this year. This doesn't necessarily bring the cost down, but because we're giving them so much outdoor space, their actual tractor is a little smaller. So that wasn't quite as expensive, but the Premier One electric fence is not cheap. So, but that's one way that we're able to save money. Now, here's the most exciting part for me as far as saving money on feeding our chickens and supporting our local places. So we had a brewery open up, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes down the road. And they are starting to brew beer and they're going to have a lot of spent grain. The beauty of having them 10 minutes away is that I can make a run down there. I don't mind going down there 3 or 4 times a week. I rarely leave the farm, but I don't mind going down to the brewery that's 10 minutes away to grab a bucket of spent grain. So now a couple things to know about spent grain. Yes, it is very nutritious for them. It's and it is super helpful, but you cannot supplement more than a third of their feed with the spent grain. And kind of what you need to do is you really need to watch your animals. So if they seem like they're thriving, if you can do 1/3, if you're filling, we usually have a 2-gallon bucket that we fill with their food, and that kind of goes in there. It just kind of fits perfectly in their feed trough. And so I'll fill that, a third with the spent grain and put the rest commercial stuff in there and give that to them. And if that is enough, then and they seem to be thriving, then that's great. If they don't seem to be adapting to it well, then you can always use less. But just imagine that I can shave 1/3 of my cost just simply by offering that spent grain to them. So if my cost goes down by a third, then my feed is now $13.50. My chicks still cost $2.80. My incrementals are still $200. It brings my total cost to $1,800. It brings my per bird cost down to $18.30. Now, again, this is assuming that we don't lose any. So this is assuming we still get all 100 chicks. And then our per pound cost is $2.61 to completely raise out these birds. Now, I know grocery stores sometimes have sales on chickens, and I haven't seen them 99 cents for years, but sometimes they'll be like $1.50 or $2. But I think that we're coming pretty dang close. And I don't like to compare to grocery store costs because they're mass producing and we're not creating a mass produced product. But I do like to think about my bottom line with groceries and my budget, and that those things are important. Highest quality that feed that I can grow out while still while still saving myself some money and offering my family the best food products. That just feels like such a win. I love it when we can do that. So when we can bring our total cost down from $3.71 a pound to $2.61 a pound, we can save over $1 a pound just simply by supplementing that spent grain. And I have actually reached out to the brewery to see if not they haven't given me the okay on the spent grain, but I'm still hopeful. But I also reached out to them about kitchen scraps. Now, I'm kind of sitting on the fence with that because we actually have a lot of farm scraps that I can feed them. And I don't know that I need kitchen scraps from the restaurant. Our farm scraps, I know exactly what's in them. I just know all the things. So that feels better. One question you might have is, what if you can't buy food from Fred Smith, or what if you get it from someone else? It doesn't matter where you get it. The math stays the same. You just have to input different numbers. But for instance, if you live in the valley or pretty much anywhere in Alaska now, it seems like Alaska Melon Feed, I know, is a popular feed to buy. It's easy to find, whether you're in Anchorage or in the valley, or Three Bears carries it. Lots of places carry the Alaska Melon Feed stuff. So, and it is a few dollars cheaper. It's $3.33, I think, for the starter, and 32 something for the grower. So you're going to save a few bucks per bag. The other thing to know, you might get your feed like at Walmart or something, which is fine. There's lots of commercial feeds that are brought up from the lower 48. But one thing to watch is the bag size. So Alaska Melon Feed and Fred Smith both sell 50-pound bags. I know that a lot of the other bags of feeds are 40-pound bags. So just make sure that you're not like comparing a 40-pound bag that might only be like $28. Make sure that you figure out the per pound. And I just like 50-pound bags because it's easy to figure out, a ton, and, just the math is easy. So, but just make sure that when you're figuring your costs that you're figuring all of these things in. If you have any other questions, I'd love to answer. We do have a class that we are offering. We already did the live class and it was so good. I cannot tell you I learned a lot. We've had chickens forever and I learned so much. So I would highly recommend, if you have any questions about growing chickens, that you check out our class. I think, well, it's Valentine's Day 2023. So if I know that the class right now, if you purchase it, you'll get the recording, and the recording isn't quite ready yet, but I know it'll be ready here in a week or so. We need to finish getting the infrastructure set up on our website and finish the editing, and these are going to be premium. That chick class, I can't even tell you. I didn't expect to learn. Not that I thought I knew everything, but we kind of have a system, so I wasn't expecting like system disrupting advice in this class, and oh my goodness, I learned so much. So I highly recommend it. Angela Walker from Alaska Chickapalooza was the one teacher, and then the other teacher was Kaylee Bowen. She is a poultry farmer in the valley, and they're brilliant. They talked about things like growing and fermenting feed, which we're going to try a little bit this year too. But another thing is, if you're just kind of interested in raising meat chickens or chickens for eggs, be watching our YouTube channel and our socials, because we're actually going to bring you along the process with us from the day we get our chicks until butcher day, when those things go in the freezer. We're going to bring you along. So you're going to get to see all the aspects of it. Like I said, from chick to freezer, we're going to be talking through all of it. We're going to do a butchering class, slaughtering and butchering class, and so I think it's going to be really helpful for people. And we're actually doing, if you're interested, we're also doing the same thing with pigs this year. So we're getting a couple pigs, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be just kind of showing what it's like from start to finish, and we'll be offering a butchering class with pigs as well. So anyway, I'm glad that you joined us. It would be a tremendous help to us if you would follow us on YouTube. We're going to be there's just going to be a lot of information coming. I'd love to hear your comments. If there's more that you're wanting to learn, be sure, let us know. We want to make sure that we're always offering content that's helpful. And you can follow us on our socials as well. You can check out our website. We offer homestead classes that I think are going to be a tremendous help. Plus, these homestead classes, I think that the most fun part of those is that we're building a community of like-minded people. We're getting to know people who think like we do that are around us. And that's been really fun. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll see you next time.